I'd like to tell you a story. It's a little bit different than what I normally do. It's a story about an old man I met. He had a strange look about him and a bit of a funny accent. He asked me, "What is your name and where are you from?" I said, "My name is Zach Mainen and I'm from the United States, but I'm working here in Portugal." He said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a scientist and I'm researching the brain." He said, "The brain, I know nothing about that. Can you tell me more?" I said, "Well, where to begin? It's so extremely complicated. That's the thing that's so wonderful about it, is how big a mystery it is." With that, the old man got this kind of gleam in his eye. He said, I think I know what you mean. Let me tell you my story." So he began. "I come from a place very far from here, a land of many islands spread throughout a sea. When I was a child, I used to listen to stories of great explorers who sailed those seas. Then I apprenticed as a young man, became a crew on the ship of a famous explorer. I worked really hard, and eventually, after many years, I got my own ship. I became a captain myself. Got to choose my crew, and I got to choose my own direction. Some captains, they sailed for treasures, spices, herbs, precious metals, gold. But for me, it was different. I sailed to explore, perhaps to discover an exotic new animal, beautiful bird, or maybe just a beach or a cove that no one had seen before. But what was really exciting to me was to try to go beyond the edge of the map, to go into the horizon. Most people thought the world ended there, but not the explorers. We thought differently. Who knew how big it might be?" "Wow," I said to the old man. "Sounds like quite a time." Yes, he said, "it was a golden age. But then, darker times came. People lost their faith in the future. Children stopped dreaming faraway lands. People who funded our voyages, they tightened their purses. One day, I was called by the king himself to defend my explorations. He said, 'Help me to explain why we should still spend money on voyages that seem to come to no end.' So I thought, and I pulled out a map. I said, 'See this map of the kingdom? Do you know where this is from?' He said, 'Of course, this map is from explorers.' I said, 'That's right. Once there were no maps. And then over the years, explorers kept drawing and redrawing, trading their maps, each voyage adding a little bit. Sometimes they were wrong, and so they were thrown out. Gradually, little by little, they became better and better, more and more useful.' 'Well,' the king said, 'that I understand. The explorers have contributed a lot, and that's why I would like to fund your voyages. But the people say, don't we have a lot of maps? Don't we know the kingdom by now?' 'Well,' I said to him, 'you must explain to the people. All the treasures in the kingdom, where do they come from? They come from places that were once unknown and were discovered mostly by accident by these explorations. The food we eat, the plants we use, their gold itself comes from there.' Well, the king said, 'Yes, it's true, but the people, they're not satisfied. They're not satisfied anymore. They say, make sure that each and every voyage brings back more gold and new plants. Well, I told him, I cannot guarantee that. You see, we've already been to most of the places we know. We've brought back the gold and all of that. In order to get more to go on, we have to go into the unknown. And where we should find something new, we cannot know. Well, with that, the king dismissed me. I said to the old man, "So what happened?" Well, he went away for quite a long time. I think he conferred with his advisors. And then eventually, he came back. He said, "I have a proclamation. I am prepared to fund the greatest voyage that the world has ever seen. It will be an armada of 100 ships, and it will set sail for 10 years. And at the end of those 10 years, I assure you that this armada will bring great good to all of the people." And then he turned to us, to the explorers, and he said, "Guys, please give me some idea for what to do with this armada." Well, this was not received so well. Many explorers said, "I have an idea of where to go," but very few could agree where, and not a single one was willing to guarantee that at the end of 10 years they would have some great discovery. But then came a group. They said, "We have a plan." They said, "We will build the greatest map that the kingdom has ever known, a map of all the known lands, a map with so much detail that one might voyage without ever even leaving the harbor." Well, most of the other explorers, they said, "This is impossible. This cannot be done." And then they said, "If it can be done, we'll surely not discover anything truly new this way." But the plan had some advantages. It was very well argued. They said, "Surely this plan in 10 years will bring much good to anyone who travels the kingdom. And even the furthest navigations, the furthest trips, will benefit from the new things that will come from trying to solve this large problem." And they said perhaps no more ships would ever be wrecked again. So the king thought, and he thought, "This is good. I'm going to support this mission." And so he set forth the armada. Well, I said to the old man, "So what did you do? Did you join it?" "Yes, I did join it," he said, "but you see, things were a bit more complicated because I was already involved in quite an adventure of my own. You see, several years before this, a wealthy patron of exploration had decided to build a new port. And they would do it in the same site where ancient sailors did set forth their voyages. And the patron, he bid me to join him and to lead a small fleet of ships. And they would call this harbor, this marvelous harbor that they would build, the harbor of the unknown. Well, I could not resist this. I joined them, and so too did several like-minded captains. But what would we do? The armada, it was not a bad idea, so we would join and we would do our part. But our hearts lay over the horizon, and we thought they might not ever get there. So we met, we thought, we discussed a lot, and we came up with a plan, with a dream. We agreed that it was not the destination that was so important, it was the way that we made our voyage together. So we agreed to work with each other to better our ships, our instruments, our maps. We agreed that our crews were going to sail further if they took time to enjoy those trips and not just work. We agreed that we would have to hear the voice of each and every one of our crew. And finally, we agreed that every other ship we would meet, we would treat as a comrade and not as a foe. So this harbor, this dream, it became kind of a beacon, and many explorers from near and from far, they came to join us, and we grew from a handful till we were 150, 15 captains in their ship, and all those crew. And each captain would take her ship to wherever she thought she must go, confident that if she should run into trouble, the other ships would be there to support her. We would take joy in each other's discoveries and victories, and therefore go much further and be bolder. And after those long voyages, we would always return to our harbor, and we would tell the tales to each other of our voyages, and we would take stock of where we had been. We would reform the connections between us, and we would tell our stories to anyone who would listen, especially those who had never left the shore, and we would try to inspire them with the magic of the unknown. Well, at this point, I was quite moved by this story, but I had to ask. I said to the old man, but did you discover anything? He said, many people ask me that, and I'll share with you something that I don't often tell, because I think from the work you described, you would understand what I mean. I discovered an important thing after all of those years, searching for land and thinking nothing of that. I realized it wasn't the land at all that drove me. It was the sea itself, the unknown. My beacon was the horizon, with or without the land. And with that, he turned and walked away. As you have realized at this point, there was no old man. This was a story. Some of the events, many of the events are things that happened to me in my career. I am the director of the Champlain-Mo Neuroscience Program. I did join a big venture, the Human Brain Project. And the people that you saw, they work in our institute, you saw them there, or enjoying their time at the retreats that we have, and telling their stories at our events. So my main message is this. To me, science is fundamentally about the unknown. It's about going for things that are uncertain and where you don't know. And so it's essentially an undirected process. It can't have direct goals. Those are not the point. Yet, remarkably, because it's a collective process, science over many years makes progress. But the problem facing science, facing us as we try to do science better, it is really the same problem that's facing all of us, all of humanity. And that is to realize this unlimited potential that we have. It depends on our ability to work together. And it depends on us having faith in the future. So I would just like to end by thanking my crew that have shared so many amazing voyages with me over the years. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening to my story.